Hey there, how's it going? So, today we'll be doing a little bit of post commentary over some videos I took earlier. I've been putting together a quick little navigation system for dealing with pop up dialog windows that have multiple forms attached to them. And while I was working, I didn't really feel like talking through it too much, and also I'm still trying to figure out how to best handle audio and video recording while I'm doing work for VR stuff, since I'm using a desktop microphone and getting into the VR headset requires me to move away from the desk. So, this is, I may have mentioned, is post commentary, obviously. So, we'll just be watching a video of me code, and I'm going to talk to you in my smooth and soothing voice. So, if you've been following the YouTube channel at all, you might notice that I haven't uploaded anything in quite a while. Like I said, I've been trying to figure out the VR thing, been trying to figure out how to record in VR. But hopefully, going forward, I'm going to do videos a little bit more frequently. I also got a job, so I'm not sitting at home working all day like I have been for the last year and a half. So that'll take a bit of getting used to as far as balancing my own projects and the day job. But anyways, enough about that. We kind of skipped over it a little bit here in the video, as well as I think I started recording after I'd already put a few classes together. You'll see there in my Solution Explorer, I've got a dialog action, dialog panel, and navigation dialog that I'm kind of just going over and putting comments in front of. The navigation dialog is the root level object. So if you can imagine, and we'll actually get there in a few minutes once my view goes back to Unity. But as far as transforms go, I've got a root level object that is a navigation dialog, and underneath that I have multiple dialog panels. And underneath that, I have multiple objects that represent dialog actions. So a dialog action is, at least for the sake of this sample, a button that gets pressed. And I've set this up separately from any of the normal Unity UI button objects because, being in VR, I'm not using a Unity UI button. I'm just using a text label with a collider on it that reacts to my own custom VR infrastructure that I've set up. Which I'll do another video going over that. That's kind of a bigger topic, and I've got some notes I need to gather as far as that goes. But I took a slightly different approach to VR UI than what I kind of saw represented in other people's frameworks. And my framework isn't public yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to just open source it and put it on GitHub, or if I want to try and sell it on the Unity Asset Store. Kind of leaning more towards the GitHub thing and doing a free build of it and just packaging that up on the Unity store. But I'm not sure. Still thinking it over. That, and I don't like to release anything on the Unity Asset Store that I haven't kicked the tires on first, and I'm still kind of just getting the feel for how to organize things. I've done a lot of refactoring multiple times, and I think I've got a lot of dead classes in my framework right now anyways that aren't being used. But either way, once again, I'm running on a tangent and not talking about what's going on the damn video. So I think right here, or at least a second ago, I was duplicating my existing save game UI. I'm doing a save game UI, by the way. The first panel has well, first off, you walk up to the save point and you click on it, and it pops a dialog above it that says, would you like to save your game, yes or no? And if you select no, the window's going to close. And if you select yes, it's going to go on to the next panel, which will be to select a save slot. Now, once the user selects a save slot, it'll save the game, and it will pop over to a save confirmation dialog that's going to close after a couple seconds. So as you can see here, I'm putting together the infrastructure for my dialog actions. And what I want is that whenever I have an action on my dialog panel, it is at the very base situation going to either navigate to another dialog panel, or it's going to cause the dialog navigation window itself to close. So I'm setting up this base virtual invoke, which I'm gonna rename in a second here. But I've got a, what do I have here? I have a key for navigation. I have a navigation key on the dialog action, and that tells my system here what the next panel is that needs to be navigated to. And I'm going to slow down a little bit in my explanation since I'm not speeding this video up at all. You know, just kind of watching. So we have our dialog action result enumeration type. Now I do want to add something. I think I don't think I put a to-do in the code to do this, but I do want to have it set up so that I only expose that navigation key to the editor if the result is a navigation. So actually, I'm gonna write that down while past me is typing. So I'll need to do that with an on GUI. No, sorry, that's a derived editor type. I forget exactly how to do it. It's a very quick Google search though. I think you subclass some Unity editor class instead of mono behavior, and you build the like on inspector render or on GUI or something like that, and you just set it up with whichever types you want to enumerate over in the inspector, and then you I think there's an attribute that associates that inspector window with that type, but it's been a million years since I've done that. What do we got going on here? Right, so we're back here in the root level and kind of just setting up this system here where you see in the start method, I'm looking for all dialog panels that are children to this navigation dialog. And I'm just setting up a quick little dictionary, the dialog panels, that has the key and the instance of that component. And I'm also disabling each one as I loop through it. And I think I left it so that they're all enabled by default in case, so that the on start logic will actually execute. I think that was my reasoning anyways. And I'm setting up this other start dialog method that I can call so that I can, oh sorry, I also have a serialized field up there at the top for starting panel, which will be the first panel in the dialog flow. And my start dialog here is making sure that everything except for that starting panel is turned off. Yeah. Go past me, you can do it. And then, you know, obviously, don't really need to tell you what that is. Just when the first thing the dialog's going to do is it's going to swap itself up to the initial dialog. Boy, I really should have put this up to like a 1.2 or a 1.5 times speed or something like that. Whatever, it's fine. I mean, I can fill time and chat for a little bit. So, yeah, like I said, I've been doing a lot of VR stuff lately. That's kind of been my focus for the last I don't know, about 8 months or so. It's really cool stuff. It's just I don't like to make videos when I'm in an experimental phase. Like I feel like if I'm gonna talk out what I'm doing, I'm gonna do something, I should probably speak from a point of maybe not authority, but at least having a clearer picture of what I want to do than what I did when I first started out doing VR. And I built some pretty cool stuff. I set up for physics-based interactions, so like picking up objects and throwing them, and having objects that can snap to other objects. I even built a pretty snazzy little in VR editor to edit physics rigid bodies. I think on my YouTube channel I have another little like 5-minute video just showing off the end result of that. Um, and additionally, I did a lot of work with UI in VR. Just trying to figure out what the best way to do that was. A lot of the other frameworks I saw were, kind of just overwriting this base input module that Unity defines and doing this like very custom rerouting of the built-in Unity UI system, and it relied on doing like a lot of raycasts every single frame, and assumed a lot of people were using the controller for the Vive as a pointer and just aiming and pulling the trigger at any UI button that or UI object that was in line with that controller. And I mean that's cool and all, but yeah, I think that's kind of overkill. I don't need to use all that much of the Unity UI. In my case, most of my scenarios are just I have a button and I want to click it. So, I just jam my controller into the button and I pull the trigger and away it goes. And so I ended up not really needing that base UI override. I just have a collider that just deals with that kind of interaction. What am I doing here? Yeah, that's right. So I decided to do a subclass system for specific dialogue actions. I wanted to keep use this as a way to keep the UI logic compartmentalized. I'd kind of debated having the dialogue panel host the logic, and then doing something similar to the way Unity UI deals with passing messages around, like having what the hell is it called? An event trigger, I think is what it's called in the Unity UI system, where I could tell it it's this type of event and it takes this type of method signature, and then doing a couple drop downs and dragging stuff in, or even just using a simple send message and giving it a type and giving it a method name and maybe some extra metadata as far as the parameter information. But I decided not to overthink it, and that's kind of a really important lesson. Is just don't overthink it too much. In this case, I have a button, and when I press that button, I need it to do something. In this case, this button represents a save slot on my save slot selection screen. So each item in the editor is going to be wired up with an integer representing the save index, which will be 1, 2, or 3. If it's a game more like a Skyrim or something like that, where you can have an infinite number of save slots, then you'll want to programmatically generate that based on the number of saves that already exist, and maybe a button for a new save game, which will just have a slot number for that maximum index plus 1. But in my case, I'm going for a very simple, maybe Legend of Zelda style thing, where you just got 3 save slots, and not necessarily tying the game to one save slot and forcing the user to only use that one, but I don't need a million save slots or anything like that. A person can get by with 3. And quite frankly, while I'm not even sure exactly what my end project here is going to look like, I do know that I want to keep it simple. So what else was I saying? Yeah, I also I haven't really been putting out too many Unity Asset Store projects lately either. I had a good burst in November, December timeframe. Well, actually, more in November, where I released a bunch of them just because I had a long list of items that I'd kind of let build up, and I wanted to make sure that I'd gotten all that done before I went and applied for new jobs. And then in December, Final Fantasy 15 came out, and that kind of took a lot of my time and energy, or time and focus rather. Not really much energy sitting around playing video games. But I wanted to make sure things were in a good place before I went and got a new job. So I did. I went through the exercise of selling a lot of stuff on the Unity Asset Store. I think I got something like 7 packages up there now. I mean, I guess that's not a huge number or anything, but when you consider each one took me a little while. Like I did a fairly simple AI starter kit project, I have a seamless scene loading asset which deals with loading and unloading additive scenes as the player traverses through certain trigger points in the level. Um, I did a keyframe animation system for um, animated quadrilaterals. Just a couple interesting odds and ends that I thought were going to be pretty useful. Oh, I did. I put my object pooling system up into there as well. So if you don't know, object pooling is reusing instances of game objects. So I use that a lot for managing 3D models that I have loaded. So that instead of destroying and reloading 3D models, and that consumes up some CPU cycles that can get pretty hefty depending on the quality of the model. I preload like 5 or 6 models or however many is good for that specific instance, and then as those models or those objects are destroyed, I recycle those instances. I just deactivate the model and then pop a replace the data and reuse that same model later on. I think here I'm just doing a little UI validation, making sure my number that I've specified in the editor is good. I think I remembered like halfway through writing that I'd done an integer extension, or if I hadn't already done it, I intended to. And I'm just copying my save logic from my previous save game UI system from down there. It's a pretty simple mechanism. Oh, that was another thing. I released a save game package on the Unity Asset Store, though I'm not really happy with how that turned out. I might do a version update or something. I need to figure out how the Unity Asset Store handles like free upgrades or something like that. Like if I want to just release it as a new package and then offer people that already bought my save system like a free upgrade or something. Like I definitely don't want to recharge people for the same thing, but at the same time, if people have been actually using what I put out, I don't want to turn around and make huge breaking changes that they pick up on the update. But yeah, it's really up to the Unity Asset Store and how they want to let me handle my upgrade strategy. Yeah, I'm just looking through, making sure I'm checking to see what the result is from my save game object. Like, I think I came to the conclusion that there's no scenario where I don't return a save file, whether the save succeeded or not. And my save game method just throws an exception out of there, which I kind of decide to check later. But really, at this point, like, it's an exception flow, but if my save system fails, that's something that needs to be captured during testing, right? That's not like the user can't do anything to fix that. If the save is invalid because the hard disk is full, or because I screwed up and didn't implement it correctly for whatever operating system it goes out to. Maybe Unity cross compiling to do a Mac build or something. The application.persistent data path isn't right, and I needed to do something else Mac specific that I wasn't aware of. Hopefully that should come up in testing, but in this case, like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and assume it succeeded. I'm going to call my base execute action, and that's going to go ahead and do whatever navigation or closing the dialog or whatever I've specified in the editor for this action. Which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. I renamed that I had a virtual method called invoke, but I renamed it because, there's already a invoke on mono behavior, and I didn't want to dick around with any, like, method hiding or anything like that. What do I do next? Let's see. Is it at this point I start wiring up the UI? Yeah, it is. Okay, you can see there I have a save game pop-up orchestration that I'm removing. Oh, the context menus don't show up on the video. Alright, I'll have to fix that as well. But oh, that's right. I think I fixed that ages ago. And you have to do monitor capture in OBS instead of window capture. But previously I had it wired up so that I had this controller that was responsible for doing all of this hiding and showing of the different subsections of the UI. And it was just, it's just a lot of boilerplate hiding and showing code that it's like, yeah, I can abstract that away, which is what kind of led into doing this task. Yeah, so we're just wiring things up here, putting the navigation dialogues on each of the main sections. Setting up the keys. So on and so forth. So we'll give past Chris a chance to catch up here. While I drink my delicious, delicious energy drink, which hopefully doesn't pick up on the microphone. We shall see. Yeah, so I talked about Unity Asset Store. Talked a little bit about VR, but I kind of want to save the majority of that for another video. Something a little bit more VR specific than this. Um, yeah, I mean, just looking at my Solution Explorer, you can see I got a lot of. That's just my VR section right there, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and then up above I have my main framework. So I've been doing a lot of work, as you can probably tell. All using Steam VR, which if you're doing the Vive development in Unity, that's kind of the way to go. Um, boy, why am I? There we go. Okay, I was wondering why the hell I was sitting there doing nothing. I think I'd pop back over to. I noticed earlier that Unity, if I pop back over to it and it's updating its files because I added stuff in the solution, it doesn't actually. OBS's scene switcher doesn't actually detect that I changed the monitors. Later on, I did remember that when I'm debugging code, that hitting a breakpoint and switching over to the window doesn't actually change the scene switcher either. But that is not my problem. Yeah, so here we are. I'm wiring up my VR selection. And I think, my thought process is that, this is going to map what I have as a button click essentially in VR over to actually executing the dialogue action that's on the same object. And inversely, when, bleh, if I could speak, when I get around to doing normal Unity UI stuff with the mouse click and button click events and all that, I'll do a similar mechanism for mapping the button click event to executing the dialogue action. And that way I just kind of I facade the actual UI implementation from the dialogue action itself. What else has been going on lately? I guess I'll just use this kind of as an opportunity to catch up on stuff. So we talked Unity Asset Store, we talked VR. I played a lot of Final Fantasy 15. Pretty good game. I enjoyed it a lot. Story could have been implemented better, and I really wish there were a lot more set pieces like without spoiling anything, I guess I'll say the train fight at the very first train fight, which if you've played the game, you'll know which one I'm talking about. So it was a really cool battle set piece. I really wish there'd been a lot more of that in the game, but I really enjoyed the open world stuff and going on the hunts and taking my boy band out and having a little road trip and fighting monsters was fun. And for what it's worth, I enjoyed the story too. Just, I wish it could have been told a little bit better and didn't require watching anime and a CG movie in order to get the pieces for it. But what are you gonna do? You know, Resident Evil 7 was absolutely freaking awesome though. Like I was so happy with that. They said they were going to return to form, go back to their roots, and boy did they nail that on the head. That, I mean, if I have any complaint about it, it's that the stupid extra modes were all hidden behind DLC purchases, whereas those were normally like unlocks from beating the game with a high score, in past Resident Evils. But even the DLCs were a lot of fun. Like, I enjoyed the silly little arcade modes. Especially they put one out recently where you feed one of the was essentially a zombie, and one of the zombie characters. You gotta run around a house and find a bunch of food to feed him within a time limit. Like, it's a really fun little cheesy arcade mode. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. I'm still working on getting all the achievements, but Neo came out, which is really scratching my Dark Souls itch. It just sucks that I gotta wait like until April for the PvP patch to come out, because I'm really looking forward to digging into that. I feel like the game's either gonna go one of two ways. It's gonna be like Bloodborne, where it's a lot of mashing and a lot of healing, but the healing items are a lot harder to come by in high quantities. Like, you're not going to run around with like 600 healing items like you do in Bloodborne. So, unless people want to do a lot of farming for healing, like, they're probably not going to be healing a lot in PvP. And I feel like in Neo it can be punished a bit easier than it was in Bloodborne. But we'll see. We'll see how spammy people end up being. I mean, quite frankly, it seems like Neo does a similar thing with as Dark Souls 3 PvP did, where it goes into like a 2-hit true combo system, where when you connect with a hit and the second hit is quick enough, it'll stagger you into the second hit and you can't escape. But after that, you've got an opportunity to raise your guard and block the third hit. Or if somebody's swinging enough, you could parry that third hit. Now, there was a term for that in Dark Souls 3, and I forget what it was. But, I feel like it could be really good, and it seems like the skill ceiling as far as like the stance switching and weapon switching and, even just fighting the AI-controlled versions of other players. Like, it feels like there's a solid enough rock paper scissors system in place with each weapon type, but not so much that you can't beat every weapon type with every other weapon type. Like, there's emphasis on speed versus range versus versus attack power. And it feels like even like with faster weapons, they're going to take a lot more hits that have a shorter range. You can get in close and punish people that are just spamming and aren't thinking about what they're doing. So I'm really looking forward to that. 2017, though, as far as video games go, is so damn front loaded. I'm kind of having to. Well, I don't know, actually. I might not skip Horizon Zero Dawn. I was really looking forward to it, but I think Nier Automata comes out like that same week, or maybe the week before Horizon. So I don't know. It's just so much coming out in 2017 here. And those are really the two other games I'm really looking forward to. Is Horizon and Nier. Nier was one of my favorite games on the 360. Like, I mean, the gameplay was garbage, but they just did such real cool things with the story, and the music was amazing, and the voice acting, like, the overall presentation was good despite the graphics being kind of garbage and the gameplay not being great. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Platinum does with it. And Horizon Zero Dawn just looks like a really cool lot of fun, but I need to look more into that. like see how open world the game actually is, and what's actually going on in there. But regardless, what do we got going on screen? It looks like I might be finally done with my UI updates. So, I got my. Oh no, that's right. I need to set it up so my save point will enable my dialogue. Yeah. Yeah, so when I walk up to it in VR and I put my controller into the save point and click the grip buttons, it should enable the dialogue on top of it. And actually, I do need to set up I either need to set up a mechanism where if I click on it a subsequent time and the dialogue's open, it closes it, or I just need to put a close button in the top right of the dialogue. And I think that's more than likely the way I'm going to go, is I'm just going to keep it in the dialogue and leave the control set to just enable things. Yeah, I think at this point I start Unity, and like always, I forget that I don't have Steam VR enabled, and the lighthouses haven't turned on yet, so I'm not tracking. So I gotta wait a second. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So I pick up my VR headset, and away we go. And we get to go through our first round of bug testing with this thing, because I know there was a few issues I had. Well, more than a few. Yeah, so obviously I clicked no and the dialogue didn't close, and I clicked yes and the previous dialogue didn't disappear. Yeah, so I never tracked or rather, I never set the current panel to the starting panel once I turned it on. So when I went to go navigate to the next section, it didn't have anything to turn off. And I will discover in a moment that I need to null that out when I close the dialogue as well. But we'll do a little couple back and forths here as far as just fixing quick little, spots where I was forgetful in the code. Yeah, I realized that the UI doesn't come up again, even though whatchamacallit, even though I'm clicking the save point again, the dialogue doesn't show up a second time. So while I'm, while past me is going back and forth on this and tweaking a few little things, let's see what else is going on. Um, talk games. I mentioned work. I got myself a new job. Yeah, for those of you that don't know or actually I assume this is going to be pretty much everybody that finds this randomly, is that I took between October 2015 and the be like mid February until mid February 2017, I've been enjoying a nice little sabbatical from working. I've been doing Unity development and VR, and just having fun. Not really worrying too much about getting a day job. But I kind of decided in October-ish that it was getting a little it was getting to be time to go looking for a job. It was wasn't really accomplishing as much as I was my first. After a year, I was starting to slow down. I wasn't really getting as much done. I wasn't as into doing this every day anymore. So it was time to change things up. Got my get my resume all gussied up, and went out applying for jobs, and ended up working at Curse, which is a chat slash VoIP application for gamers. Really cool place. I like it so far. The work's interesting. It's just been, I think as of the time of recording, I've been there for a week. So, the opinion is still forming. But so far, I'm really happy with it. But that also means I won't be spending as much time doing fun stuff like this. But I do want to make sure that, when I do sit down to work on VR stuff and game stuff, that I'm getting the most out of my time. I'm not getting complacent with it and just puttering around doing it for the sake of doing it. Like, I think that's gonna be the real test: is can I balance these two things? Can I balance having a daytime job, and can I balance having um, uh, self-employed business as well? Only time will tell. I think for the first couple weeks, though, it's gonna be, it's gonna be pretty hectic. It's gonna be a bit hard to. Probably not gonna get all that much work done on this stuff. Just getting used to being at a job, not making my own hours, and having a just all the ramp up and stuff that needs to get done. Like it's gonna be tiring. So I don't know how much energy I'm gonna have when I get home to work on this stuff. And we'll see how the weekends end up looking. So let's see here. So where am I now? Yeah, so I think I'm just now testing, opening the dialogue and closing the dialogue and reopening it. And, it keeps on not working. But that's okay. Being in the future, I know that I figured it out. The answer is... Oh, I guess I didn't figure it out quite yet. I guess I went and looked at it another time. Stupid me. I saw it, but I already know what the problem is. But I won't spoil it for those of you that are, waiting with anticipation. Oh yeah, this is the part where I debug. Whoops. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, it becomes very obvious as soon as I hit the breakpoint. Though, thankfully, I do remember to swing over to OBS and manually switch the scene because the debug doesn't do it for me. Oh, that's right, no pop-ups. So that this current panel is currently not null. It's actually set to something because I don't ever clear that out when I close the dialog. I'm gonna need to switch this over to monitor capture. I didn't realize how much stuff is in the tooltip layer or the overlay layer in WPF that gets missed. I think the IntelliSense menu is or the autocomplete in Visual Studio is included in that as well. In addition to the context menu when you right click and the tooltip when you hover over a variable. Yep, so there we go. It's popping up again. Hit save, we select a slot, and I get an error. Yeah, in this case it's because I'm hiding start in my subclass. So I have that save slot selection dialog action from earlier that has its own start, but I never call the base class start, so it never gets a reference to that navigation panel. So just a quick little override, and we get that reference and our navigation continues. And we have a save complete. I think the last thing I do with this is I set it up so that the save complete will automatically close the dialog after like 2 or 3 seconds. I forget which, but I do have some helper components that I've already built for that type of thing, which I think I'm gonna go looking for now, and then I find that and I attach it, and away it goes. Yeah, so I mean the rest of this is all pretty straightforward. I'm just grabbing this. Just gonna grab this set of components for changing out the or for automatically closing out the dialog, like I said before. So I think this is where I am going to leave you, and I will just let the video play out in silence, and I will hopefully be making a few more videos in the future. I would like to, anyways. I do want to show off some of the VR stuff I've done, so I do want to do a few videos showing that off. Probably after I actually finish documenting my whole thing. Figuring out what all I have and what I needed, and where I left off. What else? I do need to show off some stuff about the game I'm working on right now, but I really need to sit down and figure out what the actual theme of my game is going to be, and where the actually finish mapping out the entire thing. I've got a lot of stuff prototyped, but I haven't actually figured out a concrete project I'm going to make. I do want to make a VR. All I know so far is it's going to be a VR first-person RPG type of a thing. But we'll see where that ends up. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys when I catch you. Peace out.